Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes for those keeping count. This is episode 360, and my next guest appeared exactly 1 year ago in episode 308. I want to welcome back Jeff Watson, and we're going to talk about peace and freedom. And you're probably
Right.
thinking, what the heck does that mean? Well, we're going to fill you in. So, Jeff, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me back. I love the symbolic number of these episodes. 308, like we talked about, is a caliber of something that you can reach out long distance and hit with precision. And 360 gives you a complete perspective. So I love these things.
Well,
Um,
in that whole year, you've accomplished some great things, and we'll get to talk about that. But
yeah.
the topic is peace and freedom. And off air, I said, I've mentioned Indiana Jones a couple times on this show, and on Temple of Doom, he says the short round fortune and glory kid, but most entrepreneurs don't want fortune and glory. Maybe that's what Hollywood thinks we want. But in reality, we want peace and freedom.
We want peace and freedom. And I got that from a guy by the name of Leon Johnson, just a very humble, aw shucks, down to earth, shrewd, sophisticated real estate investor, kind man. And the way I'm guiding my businesses now is towards peace and freedom. I
Hmm.
know what my long-term goals are. I know what objectives I need to obtain in order to get to those goals. And so if it does not coincide with those goals and objectives, it is not going towards my peace and freedom. And I just say, no, not interested.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of entrepreneurs forget to put those parameters in. They don't put those walls up, and they take everybody as a client, and sometimes that's the wrong thing to do.
Oh, you take a beating doing that. I mean, Rob, I got to tell you, this is in the last week, I am so proud. In the last week, I've turned down 4 clients. And it was just like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
Your situation is too messy. Your time constraints are too tight. No.
right. And but in order to get to that point where you have peace and freedom, you have to say to yourself, these are the clients I accept. The problem is that when the economy is crap, entrepreneurs decide, I'm going to lower my price to see if I can make it up in volume. And what they do is they attract the low-hanging fruit, the clients that are what I call PITA clients, pain in the ass clients, which cost them time, effort, money, anxiety, and you got to say no.
Yeah, they robbed me of my peace.
Hmm.
You might be willing to pay me the premium price I'm looking for, but you're still going to rob me of my peace. And so I'm not interested.
Hmm.
I'm just, I'm just not interested. I mean, I'm blessed, Rob. I'm very blessed, and we'll get into some of those things. I mean, with your help, we've had some really good success. And I'm now in a position where I can be a little more selective about what I say yes to and about a lot more of what I say no to. And I'm getting much more comfortable in saying no. That was a muscle I was not used to flexing.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of atrophy in the no muscle area because I was just so used to being okay, I'll make it work and so on. And I just like, no, I can't do it.
Well, and I know that, I created this podcast, created the name eHeroes. But that's more of the line of entrepreneurial hero. I want you guys to understand that you don't always have to be a hero. And as entrepreneurs, we want to look like the hero. We want to accept these jobs. We want to, help people as much as we can. But it comes back and it bites us if we don't uh, structure things the right way.
It will bite us, and there's no doubt about it. And you know, I've got the scars to prove it. Um, it just it's just painful some of the stuff that you end up accepting as an entrepreneur when you realize, no, this is not my wheelhouse.
Mm,
and or this is not, you're not my ideal client. I mean, I'm cleaning that stuff up right now. I mean, literally, I am going to my heavenly Father going, dear God, I made a mistake on this particular opportunity, this particular business decision. I am sorry. I was not thinking like a long-term kingdom steward. I was thinking like a greedy opportunist.
hmm.
And,
Yeah.
like, okay, please let me out of this trap. The cheese is not worth the trap.
No, and I've seen some of your posts lately, and you do try to take on the right clients. Just like me, I've accepted people that I thought, "Ah, this is going to be easy, a cakewalk," and it turned out to be, can I just slip my wrist now? Because this is awful,
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
and but one of the things that over the last year that really struck me as ironic is as I was helping you with your book, I was realizing that a lot of the things that I teach people, I should be implementing myself. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, you know.
Oh,
And
oh,
you're like, wow, you know what? This just hit me like a brick. And yes, this is Jeff's book, Boaz on Business. It's a cheap plug, but
thank you.
honestly, this book is a life lesson.
Yeah.
And it was thousands of years in the making.
Well, not only thousands of years in the making, but thousands of years in seeing the results
Hmm.
of that type of business operation. And I got to tell you, the proof's in the pudding. The
Yeah.
proof's in the pudding when you come to look at that. Now, I'm going to circle back because, Rob, I've had a similar experience because my assistant, my fantastic, amazing, punctilious assistant, um, she has reminded me, Jeff, if you really practice what you teach other clients, then you should not have done what you just did. And I'm like, you're right. I've had to go back to her and say, listen, how many more times are you going to tell me if I told you so?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
it's it's hard for us because we know from teaching people and coaching and taking clients the right ways to do things. And sometimes we just get into this situation where we can't back out, or I've known that guy for a long time. I'll just help him out, or I'll take his referral. And you forget all the things that you've learned because you want to be that hero again. And it's
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
so yeah, it's we have to do things for peace and freedom. And I know it comes back to that. And I know that there's a lot of times we end up putting more stress and more problems and everything else, but we have we have good people, uh,
Yep.
you're
So I'm going to
super.
just share this with other entrepreneurs that are trying to figure out what we're talking about. When I say peace and freedom, I'm talking about the ability to live my ideal dream day over and over and over and over again,
Mhm,
where I get to do the things I want to do as I want to do them in just a normal, non-hectic, peaceful lifestyle.
mhm,
And once I define what that really looks like for me, what that feels like, where do I live geographically? What does my morning look like? What does my afternoon look like? What does my evening look like? Then it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to that situation? What do I need to do to be in that position? And then once you're clear about what must be true to be able to wake up in the morning, look out the window, see the palm trees, see the salt water, see the boats go sailing by, and decide, am I going to go hang out with my friends over here? Or am I going to go for a walk on the beach over here? Or am I going to do a bike ride? Once you make those big major decisions for the day, you're good.
well, and that's exactly why I started this business long ago, is to have freedom to call the shots, to do what I want to do when I want to do it, with whom I want to do it with. And people are like, well, Rob, that's not entrepreneurship. What do you mean it's not entrepreneurship? Most people think you got to be trapped in a thing for 24/7 and, you know, this tied around your waist. And no.
So I'll give you an example. Just today, my assistant and I were talking about a guy that we have tremendous respect for. He doesn't have to work, but he does because he wants something to do with his time. He is a traveling mechanic for a distribution company with distribution machines throughout Northeast Ohio, Pennsylvania, part of New York State. They just changed company vehicles on him. And the way they downsized him and put him into this newer, smaller, not nearly as efficient vehicle for him doing his job, I just looked at it and I said, ask him this question. Why are you still working?
Mhm.
Because he doesn't have to work. And that's the beauty of it. He's lived his life. He's been very smart about what he's done. He doesn't have to work if he doesn't want to.
Mhm.
So why are you taking on this stress? And I mean, yeah, we see it glamorized over and over of being high stress and calling the shots and making the decisions and all this other stuff. But no one talks about the physical toll that that takes on a body being an entrepreneur that you do that. Ask me how I know. And then I want to just get to the point where only my friends have my cell number. And they only text me when one of two things, checking to see how I'm doing. We want to get together for lunch or dinner, or if they've got a screaming real estate deal that I can make money on with them. Other than that, leave me alone.
Well, let's talk about the making money. Not necessarily the making money, but the investing of money,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah,
where you come in. That's where you give people peace and freedom
yep,
with their money.
yep. And I got to tell you, there's a mindset demeanor that needs to be decided right up at the front. And this is one of the things I'm now starting to do with people is, are you the type of person that you're really a genuine investor? You're looking for something that is good. You're going to do a tremendous amount of due diligence on it, and then you're going to invest and you're going to set it and forget it.
Hmm.
Like money that I put into the Vanguard S&P 500 10 years ago, Rob, is still sitting there. Never sold it. No plan on it. Okay. If you're that type of person, then man, you're on my list of people I love to do business with. But if you're somebody that you want to readjust your portfolio and you want to retinker with what you're doing and you want to shift your deals and everything else every 4 to 6 months, you're a high friction client.
Hmm.
Now, if you're going to do the stuff I specialize in and you're willing to pay the bill, okay, fine. But you're a high friction client.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
because
that friction applies not just to what you got to pay me, not just what time you spend in this thing, but also all the other costs attendant. I mean, if you're in the business of buying and selling real estate, and so many people who buy and sell real estate think they're investors, and they're not. They're not investors. I know. I just might be making some of them melt, but you're not an investor. You're not getting a long-term capital gain. I mean, if you're not even thinking about a long-term capital gain, you're not even in the investing mindset. But you're buying and selling real estate, and sometimes you buy it and sell, and you don't ever look at it. Fine. You know what you are? You're just an inventory disposal person. You're buying and selling. You're just like the grocer. You're just like the shoe salesman. You're just like the car salesman. You're just like the bike salesman. Anybody else? You're just buying inventory at one price and selling it at another.
oh,
And there's a
same
lot
with
of friction
same
with
with
that.
stocks. I mean, they do the same thing. They buy,
Oh,
sell. I mean, hold on. I mean, I had Kellogg stock for 20 years, and it, finally split, and then one part got sold to Kellanova, or Kellanova sold it to Mars, and
yeah.
W.K. Kellogg sold to Ferrero, and I'm still waiting for my money back. But um, you know,
Oh, yeah. I've got
it's funny because people say, "Well, Rob, why did you hold on for 20 years?" I said, "Because all the dividend stocks or the reinvestments, people forget about that."
well, you see, this is where we are bombarded with disinformation and noise in marketing
Hmm.
to try and get us become rats on a wheel Hamsters racing on a bigger, shinier wheel. No, I'm not interested in that anymore. I've done that. I've seen it doesn't play out. I want to find some high quality, good investments, make those decisions, put them to work, check on them once a week, once a month,
Hmm.
and let it go.
Hmm.
Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I see so many people constantly every day. They're posting their stock returns on Facebook, and I'm like, doesn't that stress you out? Knowing that someone up, someone down, someone that would drive me nuts.
You know, I track I track it on an occasional basis just to see how well we're doing. And my assistant and I talked about this just earlier this week. We we saw the dip earlier this year. There was a really big dip. You saw the media screaming and writhing and foaming at the mouth and all of their paranoia and all their worry about Trump's tariffs and everything else. She and I just looked at each other like, hey, we got some extra money. This can go towards the employer match. What do you say?
Mhm.
Tossed it in, caught the bottom, and I enjoyed the ride up, you know?
No, I mean, I've bought some stocks on a dip, and it's increased.
Yeah. But then we're not taking it out. I mean,
Yeah.
I plan on I that money is stuff that I plan on when I finally decide to stop working and exchanging some of my time for income. I plan on just taking some of the dividend and interest income off of it and let the principal continue to grow. Because I'm not going to take all of the income and all the dividend out of it. I'm just let it continue to grow. Let it drop into the family trust and let it sprinkle its way down kids, grandkids, and hopefully great grandkids.
Yeah,
That's the plan.
I think that most people, especially entrepreneurs, miss the mark on exchanging time for income. And it's not that they have decided, oh, I'm worth $50 an hour, or 350 an hour, or even higher. It's that they don't see the bigger picture. Look, I'm going to invest a little now, keep investing, and when it's all said and done, that time for money is now could equate to 1,000 an hour, 1,500 or more.
Yep.
They forget the long game.
Yeah. So there's this one young guy. He's the oldest son of my one of my best friends. He's 22 years old. He's got an amazing job as a mechanic for a really good organization. He's been turning wrenches at a dealership, since he was old enough to hold a broom and they let him do everything else. He has been chunking money into his 401k plan for a couple of years now. And his wife's going to be a nurse by the end of this year. She'll be an RN. And if they don't change a thing of what they're doing right now, they just keep doing what they're doing. Don't add to it as their income goes up, which, yeah, right. I know them too well. They're going to have to retire on about $8 million. And that's really going to suck to be them?
Yeah, my one son is starting to really think about 401ks, and he's 27, and he's got enough money in cash. He goes, Dad, I could live on this for a year or two. I'm just the next year or two, I'm just going to put all my money into 401k. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Just have a
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, have a plan. But the key fundamental that we're talking about, whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever, you're learning how to live and run your business on less than what you're making.
Hmm.
So that you're building a savings, you're building your nest egg, you're building a retirement portfolio, you're building a cushion so that you have that peace and freedom. Now, do I have piles and piles of cash sitting around? No, because I believe in inflation.
Hmm.
Okay, and I'll take and put most of my liquid stuff into something that's going to keep pace with and if not outrun inflation, because inflation is here. I don't care what the cooked numbers from whatever government agency they are. I can tell what inflation's doing just in pricing. Okay. So I don't let a lot of cash sit around. So I'm using inflation to work for me. And I'm, just trying to keep up with it because other people aren't. Remember, when the hungry bear is chasing a group of hikers, how many hikers do you have to outrace? When inflation is chasing a group of consumers, how many consumers do you have to outrace? One, maybe two.
Hmm.
you know, I don't, that's all I got to say, I'm gonna outrace more than one or two, but yeah, that's the way I see it.
Well, and it's funny you talk about race because on your free time you get on your cycle, your not motorcycle, bicycle,
Yep.
and you race all over town, St. Pete, Ohio, all over, and so not only do you have peace and freedom, but you're also thinking about exercise, your body, being healthy. And, I think for me, as an entrepreneur, I forget some of those things.
Yeah.
I forget to be, I can't say healthy, but sometimes I neglect my exercise.
Yeah.
And so you have to have a balance.
So yesterday I went out on the bike and it was a short ride. And it was hills. I just focused on climbing hills because in Ohio, I'm in Ohio right now, and we have these things that we call hills because I live in a town split by a creek. And so I climbed like my fifth hill of the day, and I'm like, okay, time to head back home. And I just changed the route to go take this monster hill on. It's not long, but it's so steep and it's got a curve in it, Rob, that the city closes the road in November and does not reopen it until May. It's too
Wow.
steep to maintain. They will not, they're like, we can't send a six-wheel drive truck with a snowplow and salt up and down that hill. It's just too steep. We won't do it. I climbed that hill yesterday and I never once came out of the saddle. And I was so pumped over just that little accomplishment. Now, was I gasping for oxygen at the top of the hill? Oh, man. I was gasping, every gasp. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I can't believe it. Thank you, Lord. I mean, I was so pumped at climbing that hill yesterday. Now, when we finish this in a little bit, I'll load up the bike. I'm going to ride it. I'll drive my car over to my favorite place in all of the United States to go bike riding, Presque Isle State Park in Erie, Pennsylvania. Absolutely beautiful. It's a 13-mile round trip, beautiful scenery, gorgeous. I mean, I've encountered turkey, deer, otters, snapping turtles, all that stuff while on that trail and on that path. And it is so peaceful. And then, you know me, Rob. I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to need some hydration and nutrition. So you know where I'm going to stop. You know what I'm going to do.
Chick-fil-A, baby.
Chick-fil-A. Yep. One of the best run Chick-fil-A's in America, I might add. Run by my friend Casey Hartley on Peach Street in Erie, Pennsylvania, consistently in the top 8% of all Chick-fil-A's in the United States on what
Well,
they do, how they do it.
I just wrote a blog article the other day called "Your App Sucks Except for Chick-fil-A, Easiest App Ever," and I compared Chick-fil-A's app between 10 others, mostly,
Yeah,
and even too strong my iced tea. Um, even McDonald's, the franchise that's been around forever, their app is horrible. Um, and Chick-fil-A just listens to their clients. They try to make things easy. They make the buying process so smooth and they're so polite. You just can't help not wanting to go back. I mean, it's like going to
yeah.
McDonald's and it's like, you screwed up my order again.
Well, Rob, you got to understand, Chick-fil-A and McDonald's, they're in two completely different businesses. McDonald's is in the real estate business.
Hmm.
Chick-fil-A is in the people business, more specifically the teenager business. They just happen to sell chicken.
Yeah.
McDonald's is in the real estate business and they just pay for it by selling people hamburgers and French fries.
Oh, and the
Okay.
service is just
Yeah.
night and day.
But when you look at a company, and I'll just throw a couple, I'm going to throw three names out there that do everything they can to reduce friction. as to getting you to part with your hard-earned money. Apple does an amazing job on a frictionless, getting money out of you. Amazon, amazing job getting money out of them. And then I'm going to pick a company a lot of people don't expect, but I've watched their marketing team. I've had some conversations with some of the people there. And this is a company out of Nashville, Tennessee called Ramsey Solutions. The only friction you encounter with giving them money is you've got to use a debit card because they won't let you use a credit card. That's the only friction you run into with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always just tried to make it easy for people to pay me, except the other day, it's, and I made this reference like, back when I had my cleaning service, I accepted cash, check, and credit card. Well, in my consulting business, very few pay me with a check anymore. Nobody pays me with cash, and everybody pays me with a credit card, and I usually PayPal or Venmo or Cash App. Somebody calls me, "Do you take Zelle?" Like, Zelle? Nobody takes Zelle anymore. Their
Yeah.
app doesn't work. My bank doesn't use it anymore. Like, no, I don't take it. Somebody
Well,
goes, well, then I can't pay you. I'm
yeah.
like, whatever, I don't care. Keep it.
Well, Zelle is in disfavor because Zelle would allow you to, without fees, move money
Yeah.
from one part to another. And we have a whole industry on clipping a little fee off of all this electronic money moving around. Cash App does it, Stripe does it, PayPal does it. They all want to ding you. Visa, MasterCard, everybody wants to ding you on that because they all want that little piece. I mean, it's just like it's just like sometimes moving moving Bitcoin on the blockchain.
Hmm.
You've got choices of how much you want to get dinged on that. So anyhow,
No, but it all comes back to peace and freedom. And
yeah,
so every option that we have in life, whether it be credit card, whether it be going to Chick-fil-A, whether it be, riding a bike up a hill and losing our breath, that creates, our peace and freedom. And everybody's a little different. And some people will say, well, Rob, I like publishing books, which I do. Um, doesn't always give me peace and freedom, but it's one thing will help the other. So, you got to
yeah,
look at it and say, okay, how is this going to work in the long term?
yeah, exactly. And I mean, the way I look at it is this. If I make it easier for people to if I make it easier for the right people to do business with me, whose peace and freedom am I helping? Theirs and mine.
Hmm.
Thank you very much. We're collaborating together in a very good way. And so I love that idea. I mean, I'm going to give you another example. I've never been to them, would love to catch a game. Savanah Bananas.
Yeah.
They make it as easy as possible. Yes, their
Well,
tickets
and
are hard
and
to
the thing
get because
is,
there's demand.
it's owned by Jesse Cole, and Jesse is a big fanatic of Walt Disney. So everything that he does, it's all about the experience that you as a consumer is going to get going to one of his games.
Yep. And that when he's focused on the experience, he is clearly thinking about the peace of mind of his customer
Mhm.
because the customer's like, I know I'm going to have a good time. Yeah, you love that.
So you have a lot of things in the fire. I know because I'm, in
Yeah,
contact with you all the time.
yeah, yeah.
But what's coming up that is interesting to some investors?
Well, there's a couple of things that are coming up that are really interesting. Next month, there's going to be a really good seminar that I'll be sitting in on, maybe participating a little bit in Tampa, Florida, called What Box. September 13th and 14th, I believe, in Tampa, Florida. What Box? Put on my good friends Bill and Kim Cook. And then the big one in October, just a couple months from now, October 22nd, 23rd, 24th, in Dallas, Texas, is going to be the Deal Maker Private Capital event. That I expect will be a phenomenal event. And I'm going to tell you a reason why I think it's going to be phenomenal. we're going to have at least one session where it's going to be this, I'm going to butcher this, no hablo inglés. Okay, it is only Spanish. If
Wow.
you can't understand it, you're not going to understand what the presenters are going to be talking about. We are going after the Hispanic, Latino, Spanish speaking market, and there is a huge need for
Hmm.
quality real estate content coming to that market, and we're going after it big time. My friend, my client, my colleague on this, Jim Ingersoll, we're going after it big time. We've got some fantastic people that this is their passion. They're bilingual, they're sophisticated investors. They love to teach, they love to share, and I'm really excited about it. So that is the big thing. Deal Maker in Dallas, Texas, October 22nd, 23rd, 24th. You can find it by going to www.dealmaker/Dallas.
And I want to thank you because, since your last appearance, you have talked to people, people have watched, our episode, and people that that have gone through Dealmaker, especially Jim Ingersoll. He's been on the show. Um, Penny Payne, and there's a few other ones that really stand out. And
Mm-hmm.
it's fun to bring these people on the show. Yeah, they some of them talk real estate, some of them talk money, some of them talk, but in essence, really comes back down to peace and freedom. They're creating a lifestyle that is allowing them not only to get cash flow, but to realize that in a few years they won't need to work because of all the effort and work that they put in.
Yep. So I had brunch Sunday morning, this last Sunday morning. I flew in to Pittsburgh on my way back up from Florida and some other stuff I was doing. Had brunch with a dear friend of mine. She and I met on a Southwest flight. During COVID, we ended up sitting next to each other. We started talking because she likes to talk. Found out we have mutual friends. We've been friends ever since. Complete total stranger.
Hmm.
You know, and if you take the look at it, if you take a look at us, older man, younger lady, demographically, racially, all that stuff, we shouldn't jive, but we do. Okay.
Hmm.
And this girl has worked for about 8 years building her business. And now she's enjoying a great life of peace and freedom. And she is just pouring into quality time with her mom, quality time with her nieces, just having a delightful time because she understood peace and freedom. And
Hmm.
I'm going to circle this thing back. People think about freedom as being can do whatever I want to do. Well, don't forget that freedom includes a component of generosity
Hmm.
because giving, and this is not an original from a dear friend and mentor by the name of Tom Melzoni, giving is what God wants for us, not from us. And the ability to give, so to be like Boaz
Hmm.
in the book Boaz on Business, come up to one of your fields where the harvest is underway, look around and be able to have the peace and freedom to be extra generous
Hmm.
because he's not operating on a margin. He's not redlined. He's not in the red in his bank account. He's built a business that provides peace and freedom.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just about earning the money for yourself, but being able to not only, help the community or help a family member, but not worrying about helping them, or say, oh my God, it's going to drain my resources. Do it.
I saw a study the other day that was really interesting, and it basically shows that for every $100 somebody genuinely gives away in a charitable effort, they experience about $160 coming back because there is a law God has woven into the very fabric of this universe that basically says you cannot outgive him. He will create an environment where true generosity is rewarded.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the old saying, what was the saying about the root of all cash or money is the root of all evil? No, it's not. It's
The
I think
love.
if you hold on to that money and don't do anything with it, that's evil.
So the actual scripture is out of the book of James in the New Testament is it's the love of money is the root of all evil. And that word love is not the word that we have for brotherly love or romantic love. It is a word for a selfish, possessive desire, a greed of love of money. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
It's and we look at some of these rich people, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, some of these, and they're like, wow, they're too rich. They should cap it. Well, what happens when you cap something? You lose the desire to keep working. So what's going to happen to all these millionaires or any entrepreneur to say, well, if they cap it, I'm not going to do anything anymore. I'm not going to help people. So yeah, we can't cap stuff like that.
no,
It
no, you
just
can't.
destroys entrepreneurism.
No. And what I find it to be fascinating, the people who advocate for that are the same people who really don't have their own product, deliverable, tangible service or accomplishment that they've given. And I mean, I'll give an example. There is a very radical United States senator by the name of Bernie Sanders who thinks that we need to cap the wealth that Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk have and so on. Bernie has done nothing productive his entire life. He has been a mooch on society the entire time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that is he's has multiple homes that all came from taxpayer dollars.
Came from taxpayer dollars and came from, I'm going to say this, I'm going to touch one of the third rails in politics, baby. It came from trading on insider information.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bernie Sanders index is not as good as the Nancy Pelosi index, but it's none too shabby.
Let's shift gears a little bit. I know that politics is a little triggering, and there's probably still going to be out there people are going, I still like Bernie. Good for you, because I
Yeah.
don't. But we're going to shift gears, and I want to talk about your website. You just revamped it. I think
Yep.
it's brilliant. But one of the things that I think that every person who's out there not only teaching investments, but helping people to redesign what they're doing is the whole notion of legacy, which you did bring up in Boaz on Business, but most people forget about legacy. And not, I've always been a big believer that, you pass on something to future generations, whether it's wealth, whether it's knowledge, whether it's education. Um,
Yeah. So I'm glad you bring that up because if someone went to the newly designed website, which is watsoninvested.com, they'd have multiple options of things to do. One of the things that they could do is register with a very good email address, not some junk spam email address, but a good email address to receive my free email newsletter. Now, Rob, I just looked at the other day. We've been doing this email newsletter now for over 12 years. That's consistent giving, sharing content, sharing information, helping people be better at what they do. And we write it from a mindset of entrepreneurship, investing in real estate, being a business owner, and so
oh,
on.
and I just got one this morning. And this one is the fundamentals of self-directed IRA, private lending, part one, due diligence. And
Yep.
you spend more time educating people through your email than most people I know.
Well, and one of my colleagues, one of my clients says that if what I give away for free isn't enough for people to figure out how to do the deal, then I'm not teaching enough.
Yeah.
That's his attitude of being generous and out there. And okay, fine. But I can also tell you that if I give away this much for free, people are gonna be like, well, what happens if I actually book an hour consult with him? What happens if I actually get one of his courses? Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that people will read emails all day long but they won't take action until they actually pay somebody to help them.
Yeah. Well, I find it to be in my world, I find it to be amazing how how do I what's where people will say time is of the essence until it's time to reach into their pocket and pull out their wallet.
Hmm.
And then time is no longer of the essence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and I use AI a lot just to help me with ideas and concepts. But please, people, don't use AI for your investments. Hire Jeff because he's been around the block. He knows what's going on. Just don't use AI.
Well, I mean, what I do, Rob, what I do is so hyper specialized.
Hmm.
I don't like to use the word specialized, but it's so hyper specific that I take and blend so many different areas, practice areas, that there's no way AI is ever going to be able to understand the nuances of what I do because they're not going to be able to. I don't know how AI will ever be able to analyze both direct and indirect benefit of doing something and how that direct and indirect benefit has to be examined across your family tree and across your business associations. So I'm not too worried about it
And and
coming
it
and
may
taking my
not
job.
always warn you about the dangers of wrong investing or
Yep.
pulling out your 401k to invest in something that you're not supposed to be investing in.
Right. I was talking with a lawyer client of mine yesterday, and he's like, Jeff, he says, I got this deal. He says, I'm looking at it, and he goes, I look at the promissory note, and he says, it's pretty clearly written by Chat GPT. No lawyers looked at their eyes on it, put their eyes on it. I go, he says, I just pass. I go, yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right, Angela, just pass.
And
Yeah.
I do like the section on your website called the legality of wholesaling because you're telling people up front this is what to look for. You know,
Well, we have lived in an era from 2011 till now. So we've lived in a 14-year era where wholesaling was a very seldomly done thing. To now there are massive, huge companies, multi-million dollar companies doing it. And they've squeezed every little efficiency out of it without paying attention to what the law really requires. And so now we're seeing legislative reaction in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Illinois, Oklahoma, and other states just shutting the door on these things. And I'm just cheering for these state legislatures to finally say, we're going to require people to do things right and not rip off people, you
hmm.
know? Because it's just in the area of wholesaling, yes, there are legitimate legal wholesalers out there, but the vast majority of them that are out there are doing it wrong, illegally, immorally, and impractically. I'll leave it at that. You
No,
know,
but I'm glad that not only are you kind of a hero in this area, but you got a moral compass. And there's not a lot of I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure if I'm a hero as much as I'm a lightning rod. But that compass is true because I've had multiple reporters, both print and TV, photo, print and TV reach out to me for background, deep background on, hey, explain to me how this all works. What's this all about? And
Mhm.
I'll give them an hour of my time to where they understand it. And so then they can go out and do their interviews and they can ask some really hard-hitting questions. And I've watched on one interview, I watched the I'm not going to say the word I want to say. I'm going to watch the dubious character that was being asked questions. I watched him wince as this lady hit him with some really good questions that I helped her form. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah.
Yeah, but I also look at the state of our economy. And we talk about
Oh,
dubious people. The scammers are just intense. And yes, I wrote a book back in 2019 called Rob versus the Scammers, which launched the whole Rob versus series. But the scams today are 10 times worse than they were in 2019. And I think they they directly target people with high yield, not high yield, but high financial 401ks. They they target
Yeah.
them.
I mean, I saw two scam emails yesterday regarding Geek Squad that were sent to me. Last week, I saw a scam email sent to me regarding, the second time it got sent to me, regarding a cryptocurrency wallet that I have. I mean, they're getting really sophisticated.
Mhm.
And I mean, you've got to, I'm going to put it down like this. You've got to think about your response rather than react.
Hmm.
Because if you react, you go right, you play right into their game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and so it's there's a lot of things that people need to look for,
yeah.
and I've gotten where it looks like a Social Security thing or Social Security Administration, update. We
Mm.
get those, we're getting up there in age. We get these, once a year things, but I got this one. I'm like, doesn't even look right. What's going on? And I almost clicked it. It was that. And I thought, nope, I'm going to look at the email header. It was coming from somebody else. And if you did click it, because I ended up putting it into a different machine so that it doesn't trace back, but it got channeled through Spain. And I'm thinking, somebody's going to lose their Social Security.
Yep. They're gonna lose their identity and off it goes. Yeah. I mean, and so that is one of the things that really you've got to be paying attention to. And I'm just gonna go back to the peace and freedom. You've got to be diligent about your stewardship
Hmm.
in order to have that peace to get to that freedom.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly chasing the next bigger, better, shiny deal, you're the hamster on the wheel and you're susceptible. Yep.
I've noticed, and you know, it's not that I look at my phone or look at the stocks too much, but every time someone quotes Elon Musk, every time someone quotes Warren Buffett, especially with Warren Buffett's Coke stock. People are like, "Oh wow!" And as soon as they do it, the Coke stock goes up. The Tesla stock goes up. I'm like, people don't get caught up in that shiny object stuff. It's not always, you know, in your favor.
No, and that circles me back to, and this, Rob, this is one of the two books that I'm working on in my brain. And you know me, I think these things through. I get them 40% written in my brain before they even start to spill out.
Oh, I know your process.
Yeah, yeah, and then my assistant has got to be like, let's get an outline, let's get you filling in the areas that matter. And so I'm now contemplating a book based upon Psalm chapter 1, the first three verses of Psalm chapter 1. And the reason I'm doing that is I kind of think that when David penned those words under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, he was thinking about his great granddad Boaz. He was thinking about his great granddad Boaz and how Boaz was like that tree planted by the rivers of water that consistently grew, was a mighty man of wealth, and that everything he did, he prospered in. But he wasn't in a hurry to get rich. Boaz was a patient investor. And as we see at the end of the book of Ruth, Boaz made a significant investment that he knew he was never going to really personally benefit from, but his future son would.
Mhm.
And that taught me a lot about being an investor. You're doing stuff that, yeah, you may enjoy a little bit of it, but it's the next couple of generations that are going to be grateful that they're related to you.
Mhm. Well, everyone, what I want you to do is go to Amazon, pick up Jeff's book, Boaz on Business, Building Multi-Generational Wealth During Chaotic Times. It's a great book. You'll love it. Um, or go to an event that Jeff's at. I'm sure he'll have copies and
Yep.
you can buy. He'll sign them. And but people seem to really love the book. They take pictures, they send it to them. And I just enjoy watching all these people pose with your book because it was, you know, you'd think that, mixing religion with business, it would turn some people off, but everybody that's gone to your events wants more of this book.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you think, oh, wow, great, another religious book. But you know what? We need it in these times. I think people have forgotten, that not only the Old Testament, sometimes they forget the New Testament too, but they need to be
Mm.
reminded that it still has relevance.
Oh, it's incredibly relevant. I mean, there is so much wisdom on how to live day to day. I mean, I'll go back to Psalm 1:1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. And you don't stand in the path of sinners. And you
Hmm.
don't sit in the seat of the scornful. Just imagine if you just didn't follow all the bad advice, if you didn't try and keep up with all the people going in the wrong direction and living the wrong way, how much more better would your life be?
Yeah.
That's not religion. That's just common sense.
No, but I think sometimes people get those confused,
Yeah.
and or they're so deep in their hole that they don't think religion can help them.
Yeah. Well,
And it's usually the first thing that can.
it's that if God is there, God is amazing, God is omnipotent, and I've never seen anybody that God was not capable of helping. Just the question is, did they really want his help? That's really
Yeah.
the question. Yep.
And there's a lot of people that I think sometimes they take shortcuts, and they want the quickest way possible for it to get done. They fall for the shiny objects, and we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
You can't take any of that to get peace and freedom because it won't
Right.
work.
It
A lot
won't
of
work.
times
Yep.
those shiny objects just make things worse.
Yeah. It does. It really does. Yep. All right, Rob. This is always a very fun conversation. And the thing that I enjoy every time you and I talk, these conversations have two things in common. We know when we're going to start, when we got a specific date and time. We might have an idea about a general high level topic we're going to talk about, and that's it. Everything else from there is just you and I together. Yeah, that's what makes this so much fun.
Well, everybody, please visit Jeff at watsoninvested.com, buy his book, but subscribe to his email because every
Yep.
day you're going to get more information. You're going to get knowledge that it's going to help you invest in your future, whether it be wealth, whether it be
Yeah.
whatever you want. But
Yeah.
just
I'm
learning
gonna
about self-directed IRAs is just fascinating for me.
and I'm gonna just back up and I'm gonna give this one thought. If you go to watsoninvested.com and you click on some of the archives that are there, some of the articles in the archives, it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. It doesn't matter. You can be a wallpaper remover, you can be a street sweeper, or you can be a highly skilled dentist. There's articles there that will apply to your business. When we talk about the 5 bad Ds of a business, of a 5 bad Ds of an LLC, the things that you need to know about any type of business relationship. It
Mhm.
applies to any kind of business. And it's right there at your fingertips. And it's designed to do one thing: save you heartburn and give you peace and freedom.
There you go. watsoninvested.com, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Adios.
Peace.